So we are recording and we are going to go ahead and get started. Um, all right, we got Bailey STEM, we got West Side, we got GMS. Love it, love it. Glad to see you all on here to get this information. So I will first introduce myself. My name is Jamila Adams. I am the Assistant Director of Curriculum and Assessment here at Gary School Community Corporation. Um, and much of what I'm going to talk about falls under something called multi-tier systems of support, which is what I do quite a lot of when it comes to behavior and academics. And we'll get a little bit into that toward the middle of the presentation, but I'm going to turn it over and let Miss O'Brien introduce herself as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Crystal O'Brien. I work in the public relations slash communications area, and we support the FACE liaisons. So you all may be familiar with the family and community engagement liaisons that are at some of your buildings. We are filling those positions, trying to get one in every school. So if you know anyone who's interested, we'll talk about that later as well. But we try to do our best to support our families in efforts like this with the Parent Power Hour to be able to support our families with resources and information. And we'd love to get your feedback as well on other things and information you would want to know, so that we can, make our relationship grow and be able to support our families in any way possible when it comes to family engagement.
All right. And we have one other person who should be joining us. But while we are waiting for her to come on, I will just say that Miss Antoinette Dixon, is the Director of Student Services and Support here at Gary Community School Corporation. And she should be hopping on. While we are waiting for her, we're going to go ahead and get started with my section. So I'm just going to skip through her section as first. I'll skip through and do my section. And then that way, once she comes on, we'll go ahead and let her get started. So Ms. O'Brien, if you can admit folks that are coming in, I'll go ahead and get started. It wants to play music for you all. Okay, so we'll start with the vision and mission of GCSC, and you have it, and we'll drop in this deck so that you have access to this as well. But I will just hit on a couple of highlights. So our vision is that we are dedicated to advancing top tier education within a safe and organized setting. Because that guarantees that our students learn and attain the knowledge, the skills, and the values that they need to be citizens in this world, right? And then our mission is doing what is best for students today, tomorrow, and every day. We really want to create an environment that fosters curiosity. We don't want to stifle their curiosity or their imagination, that encourages innovation and that promotes lifelong learning. We have 3 district goals. Our first goal is that we promote an environment where children, staff, and families thrive. And that's going to be our main goal for today's session. But we also implement policies and procedures to become fiscally and operationally sustainable. And our last goal is that every child is on track to graduate ready for employment, enrollment, enlistment, and or entrepreneurship. So today we are going to look at some attendance updates from our student handbook. We're going to look at some behavior updates, and then we're going to talk about parent engagement at your specific school and at the district level. And we're going to wrap up with some next steps, and then we kindly ask for your feedback. This is how we make sure that we are providing parents with what they need, is by getting your feedback. And we have a QR code, but we'll also drop that in the chat. And it takes probably about 60 to 90 seconds just to complete that feedback form. So I will skip through these and I'm going to go to my section. And so I'm going to be talking about the behavior matrix that we have established here at GCSC. One of the things that I will say is we did have a behavior matrix prior to this school year in these, it's the community handbook and the student code of conduct. But this behavior matrix, we really took some time and invited different stakeholders in to create a new behavior matrix that aligns with the goal that the district has for your child's education. And you'll get an opportunity, and we'll talk about that, to provide some feedback as well on the behavior matrix, because we truly are moving from reactive to proactive. So we don't want to just respond after something has happened. We want to make sure that things are in place so that we can mitigate and stop the things that are taking place with your students and support the students when they need it. So I am going to just show this. This is called the social discipline window. And all of our staff, for the most part, have seen this, and I continue to show them. One of the things, a part of my job is I hold professional development for our deans, our in-school suspension coordinators, our behavior specialists, some of our community partners, our counselors. And so we are really working on ensuring that we remain in that blue box, which is our restorative box. And to explain a little bit about the social discipline window, this is how either we have received discipline in schools, or how we show discipline as adults, right? And so I want you to just take a second, and you can either drop it in the chat or you can come off mute. But think about, in your experience as a student, whether it be elementary or high school, what did you see most taking place with the students in your school or yourself? Did you see adults being punitive, meaning they were doing things to you? Oh, you do something, you're getting suspended, you're getting kicked out the classroom. Or was it neglectful? Hey, I'm coming to clock in, get my paycheck, and I'm out of here. I don't care what you do in the meantime. Was it permissive? Okay, I'm going to do everything for you, not really preparing and setting them up for the world. Or was it restorative? Did they walk side by side with you and teach you, even when you made a mistake, what you needed to do differently? Or so go ahead and look at those four. Was it to, not, for, or with? What kind of discipline did you most receive or see take place? Because we have some folks that are like, I never got in trouble. What did you see happen to other students that were in school with you? And you can drop it in the chat or you can come off mute. All right, we got 2. Young said 2. Who else? What type of discipline did you receive? All right. Ms. O'Brien said she got that 2, that punitive. And for some folks, it's different in elementary than it was in high school. So you could put both. But what type of discipline? I'm going to give about 30 more seconds. What type of discipline did you receive or see done to your classmates in elementary or high school? Have seen or got all of them? Absolutely. And that sometimes depends on who the teacher is or who the administrator is. Everybody had different styles, right? So our goal at GCSC is to punitive. Yep. So pretty much we have a lot of the 2 box, a lot of that punitive, but our goal is to ensure that your students are in that with, that we are walking with them, that we are laying out what they should be doing in school, because we take for granted a lot of times that students know how to do school. For anybody that has Westside students or attended the Westside graduation that just took place, our valedictorian said they were the first class that came back from COVID. And he said, we weren't bad kids. We just didn't know how to do school. And we often forget that students don't just come out the womb knowing how to go sit in a desk and write a paper, right? And I see you nodding, Ms. Dixon, right? They don't know how to do that. And in the same way that we teach them academics, and if they're lacking in academics, we provide them intervention. We want to do the same thing with our students to ensure that they're receiving that restorative discipline and those restorative consequences as opposed to punitive. So let me take you to our next slide. If you are not on your phone, or if you have a second phone and you have access to the behavior matrix, feel free to scan this, and those are the pages that they're on. But I'm also going to drop the link where you can get any of those the behavior matrices in the chat. So I am dropping it in right now, and you should be able to open this. And there is a tab for pre-K through 2, for 3 through 8, and for 9 through 12. So whichever one fits the student that you have, feel free to look at that. Or if you have multiple students in different grades, you have access to all 3. Okay. So when we are looking at the behavior matrix, I want to point out that the difference in the one this year is that we have pre-K through 2, we have one for 3 through 8, and we have one for 9 through 12. There is a distinction in these because what is developmentally appropriate for a pre-K through second grade student is not developmentally appropriate for a 9th through 12th student, right? And we have to be clear when we are providing consequences or interventions for students that it is appropriate for their age. Another thing that comes up, and I believe was in our last behavior matrix, was that 3 through 8 was separated. The reason 3 through 8 is not separated is because in that 3rd through 5th grade time, we are preparing them for middle school. So we don't need something separate for middle school from 3 through 5. That is where a lot of confusion comes in because they never have time to really adjust to something new. They're moving straight from 3rd through 5th, and then they're going straight to 6th to 8th, and now they have to learn something all over again. Whereas if they've already been seeing this same behavior matrix and been receiving the same supports and understand what is appropriate for school and what is not in 3rd through 5th, it's the same thing when they get to 6th through 8th. And quite frankly, there are only probably a handful of differences in the matrix for 9 through 12. So there is some continuity there for our students because there is a lot of movement. Our kids should be able to be at McCullough and have the same set of expectations as if they go to Bailey. Or they should be able to be at Bethune they have some additional supports, but be prepared to go into, kindergarten or 1st grade at Beveridge. And so you'll see that there are 3 different behavior matrices for different grade bands. For our 3rd through 12th graders, the behavior matrix is split into group levels. So group 1 and group 2 should be teacher managed. These are things that can be dealt with in the classroom. And I used to be a teacher, and I probably dealt with everything on this list in my classroom. Not necessarily should have, security was like, why don't you call us? I don't need you. But I like to handle this. This is my family in this classroom. These are my babies. But group 1 and group 2 for sure are those things that we want in our training and preparing our teachers to handle. So minor disruptions and disruptions to learning, right? And then we get to group 3, which is safety concerns. Group 4 is bullying behaviors. And we'll talk about bullying a little bit in a second, but I want to be clear that in the behavior matrix, when you see bullying behaviors, we're not calling something bullying until an investigation has taken place through the student services department. However, those one-off behaviors can be used for our students. We just wouldn't classify it as bullying, and because we'll talk about what bullying actually is. And then group 5 is harm to others. Group 6 is illegal behavior, and group 7 would be your extreme safety threats. Okay. For pre-K through 2, we have some different levels. So you'll notice if you have a pre-K through 2 baby, you don't have group levels, but you have P2A, you have behavior levels. So P2A up to P2J. Something I like to highlight when it comes to our pre-K through 2nd grade babies is that in the behavior for a lot of them, you'll see the word continual. And that means that once again, if a baby doesn't, if you come to school, we often think, oh, they're in school. I have nieces and nephews, pre-K through 2 are still babies. And a lot of the times we have a kid who comes in, they haven't been in school before, or the environment of the classroom, because as a previous teacher and as a administrator, district administrator, if a kid is constantly running out of a classroom, I need to be looking at the environment of that classroom and not just the child's behavior, right? What is happening in this classroom, whether it be the teacher? A lot of times students can feel, if a teacher is like, okay, the student has been running out of classroom, I'm kind of fed up with them, I don't really want to deal with that anymore. They can feel that. Or is it another student that's bothering them? Are they having sensory issues? Are they overstimulated? We have to look at the environment of the classroom and not just the student's behavior. So the first time a kid runs out of a classroom, we are not providing any type of discipline. Another thing I want to show is on pre-K through 2, you'll notice that we have interventions or support strategies. Our goal is not to punish these babies, right? Any of our students. But as we are teaching them how to do school, we're providing them with interventions and support strategies. And then if we look at our 3 through 12, they have available interventions and consequences. Okay. All 3 of the behavior matrices are also progressive. So for that first incident, we're not going straight to the most punitive thing like we just talked about with the social discipline window. We really want to do school with these students. We don't want to just do to them. We want it to be with. So we are starting off with some lesser consequences and interventions. And then we will go ahead and move that up to it'll progress in nature. So, once we get to 3rd plus incident, that's when we start to have some more serious conversations around consequences. And for our pre-K through 2, all suspensions for these children, because we're not saying that, excuse me, we're not saying that there will never be students in pre-K through 2 who do things that may warrant some time outside of the school. But for that, we take that on the case-by-case basis, and those suspensions have to be approved through our student services department, which is Ms. Dixon and her team. Okay. We want your feedback. We want your opinion, though, right? Like I explained a little bit, we had a focus group over 4 weeks in the summer where we had everybody that does discipline for your students was invited to come and be a part of this focus group. And we had some of your administrators come, which we were so grateful. We had the high school principal, Principal Scott. We had the previous pre-K principal, Principal Kinsey. We had Principal Wade from Banneker, and we had Principal McKinley from McCullough, who came and sat in on the focus group and provided feedback on what we currently had in place. We had things that were open to interpretation, and that's not how a student behavior matrix should look, because then Miss Susie over at McCullough is providing one thing, while Miss Sally over at Beverage is doing something completely different for the same behavior. And that's where we get the feedback of, well, this is not fair. You're doing this based on your own personal opinions. Well, no, we wanted to make it very clear cut. Right. And so we had them come in. We sat, myself, Miss Dixon, Mr. King, who's in her department as well. We sat for 4 weeks in a row, kept coming back to the table and redid the behavior matrices. But now it is time for your opinion to be put into place. And we, quite frankly, will do a student focus group as well to get their opinion on how this has been rolled out. But we would love to have you on September 30th. We wanted to make it convenient for you. So we have 2 different options. We have a lunchtime option from 12 to 1, and then we have an after work option from 4 to 5. Both focus groups will take place here at the district office, which is 900 Jerry Street, in our main conference room. And you're going to really have an opportunity to go through the matrix as if you are a student, or looking at some scenarios and how this would be applied to the students. And then we'll have a time to really get your feedback on this. What do you think? Are there some things missing? Are there some things that you feel like should be changed? And we're going to take all of that into account, as well as that student voice. So we want you to be there, and we hope to see you all. And this has also been put out on the GCSC Facebook page. So if you need to get that, you will have it there as well.
And it will be listed on the website. So the same way that this event, look for it later today. You'll be able to save it to your calendar. If you do attend ongoing, you'll have that reminder if you want to add that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Miss O'Brien. Now to talk about bullying behaviors, right? Can anybody drop in the chat, what do you consider to be bullying? I just want to see what people's definition of bullying is before we even jump into this. What do you consider to be bullying? Or you can come off mute if that's easier. I see fingers moving and faces looking intently, so I know it's coming in the chat in 1 second. Degrading a student. Okay. I'm gonna give us about 60 more seconds. I don't want my colleagues to bully me if I take their time up. All right, as they come in, I'll read them out. To physically or verbally social harm, okay? Picking on someone, okay? All right. So guess what? I'm gonna clarify harassing. I'm gonna clarify for you exactly what bullying is, and I'm gonna drop this actual fact sheet in the chat. You're ugly, nobody likes you, saying stay away from me, you stink. Physical or mental harm when one cannot defend themselves. All right, let's look at what bullying actually is. Bullying is defined as repeated. That means bullying is not a one-off incident. Bullying, in order for something to be categorized as bullying, it has to be repeated, intentional behavior. So if I'm walking down the hallway and I ask, or if I'm at recess on the playground and I'm a kid and I accidentally trip you and I come and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. Even if I didn't apologize because I didn't know that that happened, but I bump into you. That was my intent to harm someone. No, right? Now, targeting someone is completely different. So, bullying is repeated intentional behavior by one or more individuals, so it could be multiple people, that involves a real or perceived power imbalance, harassing with intent to cause fear or intimidate, right? So that's kind of on point to what we're going to see up here, because I see intimidate is already in here. Harassment would be that repeated behavior. And so when we talk about real or perceived power imbalance, we're thinking about the fact that, let's say, for instance, you have a boss. We all have a boss. Well, some of us are entrepreneurs, and bless your heart, I hope to be there one day. But I have a boss, and let's say I'm at work and my boss is consistently doing something to me. There is an actual power imbalance there. Not to say that a person doesn't have power, but when we're talking about power imbalance, we're talking about, is this the person over me that makes sure I get my check every 2 weeks? There is a power imbalance. Whereas me and maybe a colleague, or if I'm a freshman coming in and another freshman in my classroom, we're both new to the school at Westside. There is not necessarily a power imbalance there, right? And so it can take many forms. Someone says social, physical. Yes, it can. It includes actions that are meant to hurt, intimidate, or humiliate another person. And that could be physical, verbal, social, or cyberbullying. We all know social media has become outrageous when it comes to bullying. Like it just, you put something out there and it spreads like wildfire. And once it's out, it is never coming back. You can't get it off, right? And so just to clarify what bullying is not. So not all conflict that your student experiences or mean behavior, some stuff can just be horrible. Some folks just are being jerks to others, but that does not necessarily constitute it as bullying unless it meets that criteria above. So the following examples are not considered bullying unless they meet the criteria of repetition, intent to harm, and power imbalance. So one time arguments or fights. You have, the kid bumps somebody in the hallway, they exchange words, it stays there. That's not bullying. Rude or disrespectful comments without repeated targeting. So if I have a student in the class that is saying mean stuff to every single person, at this point, they are not a respecter of persons. Anybody can get it. You know, that student might need some support on some social skill development on why they are bothering other students, but if they are not targeting one specific person consistently, then that wouldn't be bullying. And then peer conflict, where both students have equal power or status. Both of us are superstars on the football team, but we're into it because you didn't run the play the way I wanted you to run the play. That's not bullying. That's just, we had a conflict, right? And so you have this bullying fact sheet for parents. And it also has our commitment as a school district to you on what we will do if your child feels like they are being bullied. And on this slide, I just want to show you in the student handbook, on page 116, we created a bullying complaint form that if you feel like your student is being bullied, or if your student feels like they are being bullied, because we want them to learn to advocate for themselves, and or if they see another student being bullied, we want them to be able to complete the complaint form and turn it into their school. And on receiving that complaint form at the student services department, an investigation will be launched. Okay. And I want to make note of Ms. Burton's comment. She said bullying teachers happens as well. We say it's disrespect, but it can also be categorized as bullying. Absolutely. If it falls into the category, anybody can be bullied. If it falls into this category of repetition, intent to harm, or power imbalance. Now, what we have to think about is, as a student and a teacher, there is a power imbalance and not on the student side. So we have to think about if that will fall into that category. But no matter what, no one should be disrespected, and that should be taken into consideration by the administrators of the building. And that's as somebody that was a teacher, right? All right. And so I am going to, Crystal, would you like to go, or you want me to go back to Ms. Dixon? Okay. So Ms. Dixon is on with us now. We're going to head back to the attendance updates because we want to make sure you receive all of that. And so I will turn it over to you, Ms. Dixon. And if you have any questions while we're presenting, you can drop them in the chat because we'll answer them at the end. You're still muted, Ms. Dixon. And I'll advance your slides for you.
Try now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ms. Dixon, and I'm the Director of Student Services here in the Gary Community School Corporation. Many things cross my department's responsibilities. I work hand in hand with Ms. O'Brien. I work hand in hand with Ms. Adams, but one of our heaviest lifts is attendance. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about some attendance things and the updating of the community handbooklet and the student code of conduct. Okay, so attendance. We've heard a lot, and I'm sure how many of you, by show of hands, or if you can raise the hand, can tell me that you've heard something about new attendance laws this year and types of absences, how that plays into that. I see the hands up. Okay, thank you. I see the hands. I see the fingers up. Some of you are not have a video on, but if you just sent. I see some people putting the thumbs up. We've all heard these buzzes. I see somebody else with a hand raised. Thank you. So this year, and really this is the second year, our state has continued to put stronger parameters around attendance, which includes new attendance laws, specifically Senate Enrolled Act 482, and the types or three types of absences that you'll see that are a part of our handbooklet, our community handbooklet and code of conduct. And if you don't know where that is, I'm sure, I think we have a QR code on one of these slides, and it is on our website, the Gary Community School Corporation website. If you go under departments, and if you go under quick links, actually, there's one there at the beginning on the beginning of the website that you can click on handbook and community handbook and code of conduct. But in that handbook, on about page 38, we discuss what are called excused absences, exempt, and unexcused absences. They are very important to the law that I'm going to talk to you about. What makes, well, here's the law. Let's go there first. Senate Enrolled Act 482 basically took a law that was enacted the year before, and it added more interventions and more restorative meetings to higher grade levels. Attendance is also restorative, just like behavior, and it is restorative. We're not trying to punish students punitively or parents punitively, but we instead are trying to restore you first before we get to that level. And so, what Senate Enrolled Act 482 said was that for older students, older students 7 through 12, we now have to have the same attendance interventions that we have for students K through 5 or K through 6 the previous year. What that includes is that in my department, we must give what is called a formal attendance improvement meeting when your scholar reaches 5 unexcused absences within 10 instructional days, and we have 10 instructional school calendar days to have that meeting. Again, I'm going to make that more simple. Once they reach that 5th unexcused absence within 10 calendar school days, we are to meet with that parent, that student, committee of persons, building admin, behavior specialist could be a part of that. A school counselor could be a part of that. Sometimes the FACE liaison could be a part of that because they may be someone that's been talking with parents. It could be a teacher. And we talk to them about ways we can address root causes, or that fourth bullet that you see on the screen now. Things such as homelessness. That would loop in Mr. Aaron King, who is our McKinney-Vento liaison for our district. Bullying and harassment that Ms. Adams talked to you about, documented after an investigation. Chronic illness, transportation, employment, all kind of things. Students at higher levels who are included now, employment, they may have a job, which is good, and we want you to be employable. As a high school scholar, we want you to be able to, upon graduation, be able to enroll, enlist, be employable, or be an entrepreneur like some of you are. But when that school employment is obstructing you to come to school, it's a problem. You must come to school. And there are other things, school avoidances, things that have to do with mental health. So in that meeting, we're going to come up together as a community, a school community, with the parent and help you resolve, why is this scholar not able to come to school? With our lower level babies, it really may be parent issues. They can't drive themselves to school. They're not able to wake themselves up. But with our older students, 7 through 12, They're able to wake up. They're able to know what time to go to their bus uh, station or where they catch the bus. They're able to not avoid school. Sometimes it's willful chronic absenteeism. And what do you think is the number of days, parent and community members, that is considered chronic absenteeism by the state of Indiana? Put it in the chat if you can tell me the days where it will get to a point where we have to be punitive with you. Someone has already put it there. I see a Sharice A. She has 10 days. You are so right. You are exactly right. And you might say, well, that's not much, Miss Dixon. But that's only 10% of a school year. Basically, it's a little less, but it is considered chronic absenteeism. And we can't make up that number. The state gives us that number. 2 days, basically, a month is considered, or 18 days, chronically absent. Because at that point, according to research, you can lose a year of school instruction with those 18 days. So when you're getting a 10, the state is saying, okay, it's gotten to be too much. Okay. And that's unexcused as well as excused. So that's why the next slide is so important for us to cover what is defined as excused, unexcused, and exempt. Excused absences. Of course, I'm not going to read them all word for word. You can see them, but illnesses from a parent, you can write a notice when they are absent. You can actually send a note back by your student. It might have been one day. They might have had a little cough, something that they didn't see an actual physician for, but you kept them home instead of them spreading germs. Of course, a note from a physician. Of course, and this might be new to some of you, parents may have a prearranged time where they're having a family vacation. Now, we do ask you, please, parents, try to set up your appointments around scheduled school vacations, like spring break, like winter break, those types of things, like fall break, like the scheduled hours after, if you're elementary, 2:30. Okay, if you're high school, after 3:30, because the state does, even with extenuating circumstances, if you keep getting excused after excused after excused absence, a school administrator, building level administrator, or someone from our department can deny those excused absences once it reaches 10. Now, that's something that a lot of parents don't know. We want to make that plain. Things like an immediate family member, a parent, a grandparent, a step parent, a step grandparent, a sister or brother, a sibling, unfortunately. Those things, a funeral, that is excused. Military families, sometimes they have to deploy or they're returning, and they have circumstances where they're caretakers of their children at that time, had to maybe make some arrangements for the students to be in school or be out of school. Those are excused absences. Again, communication is key, and having documentation. Exempt. These are things that the state really doesn't call an excused or unexcused absence, but they don't hold us accountable for them in our attendance percentages. For example, being a page or an honoree with the Indiana General Assembly, going downstate to Indianapolis. That would be a good thing. Meeting with your senator or your representative and being honored. Students, that does happen to students. If they had to go to court and they were a witness in judicial proceedings, we cannot count that against them. Helper to a political candidate. These are some things or opportunities that our older scholars have. They may work a precinct election. That is an exemption. They might serve in or on the National Guard. Now, there are 10 days that they can be exempt for that. Or they might serve on the Civil Air Patrol and they can be exempt for 5 days. Or lastly, educational leave, they can be exempt if a school administrator deems that this is an actual school activity that took the place of school. In other words, they went somewhere, they went on a trip to New York City or Washington, D.C., or to Alabama to see the civil rights uh, exhibitions or exhibits, and they actually are learning. So that can be an educationally related exemption. Then you have your unexcused absences. And that is anything that's not covered as an exemption or an excused absence. Okay? So, and this happens, like I said, a student has more than 10 excused absences. We covered that additionally. They can be considered chronically absent. I don't know if I have any questions on that. Okay, you can put them in the chat later, but I'm going to move forward. The uniform policy. Now, and for several years, the Gary Community School Corporation has implemented a uniform policy for all students in order to maintain the students' focus, academic success, and improve behavior. This has become optional, especially at the high school level. But here are the parameters and the criteria. Not yet. I see Miss Adams shaking her head.
Yeah, it's no longer optional at Westside. So Principal Scott just sent out a message. Dr. Stokes has made the uniform mandatory at high school as well. And Ms. Dixon will go through what that uniform is.
Okay, thank you, Miss Adams, for that update. Thanks for making me aware. Okay, well, the next slide will just give you some criteria and some information about the uniform. Okay, these are guidelines. I know we have trends in fashion where students like to show their midriff, maybe at the cookout, maybe during summer, or maybe at an outside school event not related. It's appropriate, but it is not appropriate for school. So we don't want flesh showing or the see-through shirts, even with the young men, those type of things with the holes in them. You can't wear hats or hoods in the building. You shouldn't be walking around with hoodies on their heads. Now, they can wear them as an outside attire because it is getting cool, but you shouldn't be wearing them inside the building on your head, walking around these little scullies where they show their eyes only. I know these things are fashionable, but they are not appropriate for school because they do conceal identity and they could be issues for security issues. Also, they can't wear anything deemed gang affiliated, certain colors or certain things or certain symbols, house shoes or flip flops. Can't wear house shoes to school, can't wear flip flops. Too much of your feet are exposed and potentially could cause bodily injuries to yourself. Clothing that incites violence, run up, get done up, things like that on your shirt, or I'll get with you, or those type of things that just aren't appropriate. Negative behavior, they promote those things. Also, drugs, no marijuana paraphernalia on your shirts or any type of drug paraphernalia or things like vapes that are not tolerated or appropriate for school. You shouldn't have a vape on your shirt or a pen you're wearing, anything like that. Also, anything that is an obstruction or disrupts the learning environment. The classroom, you come in with your butterfly wings on and your antler ears, and you're running all around in the classroom, not appropriate. That will cause any instruction, any teacher's teaching to stop abruptly. And we don't want those things. We want them learning, and when we want them paying attention and gaining all the detailed instruction that our curriculums and our instructors have to offer with their expertise. Okay, and this is a chart taken directly from that community handbook and the student code of conduct. Across the top row, you'll see the items, and going down the columns under item, you have tops and bottoms. You have the guidelines. You have the color for each level, elementary, middle, and high. Now, elementary, they wear the white, the light blue, or the navy tops. They wear the dark blue or navy bottoms. Middle school wears the burgundy. So, and they wear the khaki at the bottom. And high schools wear the navy and the khaki bottoms. And that's very important because it sets them apart, and it even becomes another mechanism to promote their safety. Or if we see them in the neighborhoods or out in the community and they are unfortunately not in school, we can identify them, and some of our community partners can help us locate children. And especially if someone unfortunately might be talking to a student, I've witnessed that and stopped and known they were our students. And I was questioning who is talking to these students at the bus stop. These are things that let them stand out easily. And we've added as guidelines now they can wear dress shirts, blouses, collared polos, Oxford button downs, jumpers. You have a variety, skirts, knees and shorts to the appropriate length where we aren't showing a lot of the thigh, or it's a lot of where it's mini and they can't bend over. We know what makes it inappropriate. We used to have an old school fingertip uh, test that we did. That still is something that I think is appropriate. If you can't, your fingertips, if it's shorter than that, when you put them to the sides of your body, it's usually a little too short for school. But we've added uh, GCSC spirit wear. They can wear spirit wear that is non-hooded with their bottoms, the navy blue bottom, the khaki bottoms as well. So a lot of the schools have their branded Cougar shirts that may say Beverage Cougars, or it may say Williams Cougars, or Westside Leadership Academy's Cougars, or Gary Middle School or Bailey STEM Academy Cougars. And they can wear that also as well. Cell phones. This is and still continues to be a state law. Senate Bill 185. Cell phones are prohibited in the classroom and the school instructional environment. They can be on their persons. I know parents, you want them traveling with them for safety purposes, but when they get in the building, they should be turned off and out of sight and put into their locked lockers. They have locks, master key locks, that they can put them in a locker or in a book bag or in a purse. We should not see it. The only reason maybe a teacher, and they probably won't say that, we have iPads, Chromebooks, one-on-one devices that teachers can use on our networks with our internet uh, privileges and services that we offer. And that's basically it for me, parents.
All right, and we will move to Ms. O'Brien, who's going to talk to us about um, family engagement at the district level.
Thank you so much. All right, we're gonna make this quick to keep you all on time. I know a lot of people have other things going on in the middle of the day, so I want to thank you all in advance for spending an hour with us for this Parent Power Hour. My name, as she mentioned, is Crystal O'Brien. I work on the public relations team with myself. My chief is Chelsea Whittington. We also have Jeffrey Smith, and then we have the face liaisons. These are just a couple of them that are out at our schools, which you all may be familiar with. We do have a couple more. They're just not pictured here. If you want to go to the next slide. So with all of us together, we have a very unique way that we kind of get our messaging out. As I mentioned, we have our chief, and then Jeffrey is over our radio, which is 88.7 FM. It is housed over at our career center. So that's one of the methods that we try to get word out of the different things that we have going on. And then those face liaisons are our boots on the ground. They're at our schools. They're that direct connect with our families in our building. And then I oversee things from the website to the messaging boards to the signs to all things communication, social media, anything you can think of, the list goes on, and anything that I'm asked of. So there are a lot of different ways that we try to communicate with families, but we do always want to find ways that are best for you all as well. So it looks very great that we have this many people online. So this is a great way to know that our families do want to get this information. Just sometimes it's not as convenient to come out to our schools. So this gives us that thought process to say, hey, we need to be able to do more things virtually so that our families can get the information that we're putting out there. So let's ask this quick question. How many methods of communication do you all think we have when it comes to the Gary Community School Corporation and the ways that we push information out to our families? You can put it in the chat. You can put it by naming maybe how you heard about this particular event, or different ways that you are used to gaining information from your school or about things happening in the district. Oh, okay. The text is new. Um, at least five, yes. Awesome. Calls, email. Yeah, text is something new that we've actually added on. So, through our new website, if you want to go to the next slide, Miss Adams, through our new website, we are able to push messaging out through text now. So Apogee is our new web host, and that allows me, because again, I'm one man team. It's sometimes a little hard, and I may forget or drop the ball when it's like, oh, let me go on our Facebook page, and let me remember to put it on our website, and let me remember to share it over here on this page and put it over there. And so that allows me to at least combine a couple of the methods that we are using, which is our text messages. We're able to do it we have a district Facebook page, as well as our schools have individual social media pages. We sometimes will blow up big signs when we have events happening in our schools. So the posters, if you ever picking up your child early or you go in for report card pickup or any special occasion, we sometimes put signage on the door for things happening and coming up so that parents are kind of aware. Sometimes we just send on the paper flyers, right? Sometimes it's easier for parents to just have that so they can throw it on the refrigerator, remember the things that are coming up. We have the school marquees. We, at the elementary level, use Class Dojo. At the middle school level, we have Remind. And then district wide, we have Skyward. And then, as I mentioned, we have the radio station. So that is available 24 hours a day that you can do from anywhere because you can log in from our website. Or you could, of course, can just tune in your car because it's 88.7 FM. So it's pretty cool that we're able to do that, as well as like we do a monthly newsletter from the district. If you ever want to look at that, that's on our website under community engagement. And then our schools do their own newsletters as well. So those usually go out to those particular families for that particular school. And if you ever, feel like, hey, I have not really received a text message or a robocall this year or anything like that, just check with your school to make sure your information's in there correctly, because sometimes it's just how it's coded, right? If I put in it's a home number, then obviously it's not going to text you, right? If I put it in and don't put in maybe a one, I don't know if they require the country code, but whether it requires it or doesn't require it, sometimes it's just something that the systems get a little wonky. So just check with your registrar or with your face liaison if you have one in your building to make sure that our information on our end is correct, because all those the systems that are speaking to each other are pulling from how you were registered. So when we ask parents to make sure your information's updated, when phone numbers change or if you move or all those type of things, it's important because those are the ways that we communicate with you. Next slide. So as I mentioned, anybody went to the Michael Jackson tribute a couple weeks ago? Last weekend, 2 weekends ago. I did this funny flyer for you to be the face of Gary Community School Corporation. So we are, as I mentioned, hiring for family and community engagement individual liaisons in our building. We have a couple open positions. So if you know anyone who wants to be that resource, be that frontline person, we are hiring at a couple of our schools, including our pre-K. So those are our first interactions. So someone who really loves and enjoys being around the little ones. And you know how it is when you are a first time parent and you have a million questions and a million things you want to know about school. We'd want someone who's very strong in that area, all the way up to the secondary, which of course we all know is a little more challenging to fulfill those needs. But we as parents need that support as well, right? At every single level. So if you know anyone, feel free to send them over to our website at garyschools.org. And they can apply there. And we are looking to fill those very quickly. All right. Is that it for me? Because I know we're getting close to the end.
Yes. I'm going to go through this really quickly because the feedback piece is very important.
Mhm.
We have an opportunity for you all to join our district-wide Parent Partnership Council. Sorry, I have two screens, so now I'm looking over here. Our Parent Partnership Council. We are a group that has started in about March. And as we get more parents and community partners to come in, we've really started to kind of nail down our focus. And so the two foci that we have for our group is parent literacy advancement and community engagement expansion. Our parent literacy advancement group is working on things like GED programming for parents, courses that they can take to monetize some of those skills that they may have. And then community engagement expansion is how can we get the community of Gary more involved in the school district. So if you are interested, once again, we will be sending out this deck. So you all will have this information. But our next meeting is coming up this Wednesday. And I see some of my members on here at the district office from 4 to 5:30. If you need to bring your children, feel free. We have, coloring books, crayons. We'll have snacks for you and the kids. But it'll be this Wednesday here at the district office at 900 Jerry Street. And we hope to have you. And then every one of our schools will have a parent advisory council this year. So not a PTA or a PTO, which is focused on events and fundraising. But this will actually be the council and the group that is there to guide those decisions and ensure that parent voice is taking place with the administrators at every school. So you can reach out to your administrators or the face liaison there at the school to find out when the first meetings will be taking place, because none of them have had meetings yet. Crystal, do you want to, okay, so we don't have time. So we want to wrap up and we want to just discuss some next steps. So we want you guys to take advantage of the leadership opportunities that we have across the district, right? So that would be coming to our next meeting on Wednesday. That would be reaching out to find out when those parent advisory councils are going to take place at your children's schools. Your voice is extremely important. And so we want to make sure that that is addressed. Ms. Maria, we can discuss that at the end if you want to stay on, because that would be a question for Principal Scott. But we also want you guys to attend subsequent parent power hours. So this won't just be a one-off. We wanted to do this one with district updates for the first one, but we're actually turning this over to the FACE liaisons to kind of provide some sessions where you guys are either learning about the curriculum that your students are using, or how to access different things that support your kids, or how to support them in what they're doing at home, you to experience what they're experiencing. And so it will be informational sessions, but your FACE liaisons will be leading those. And so those dates and topics will be announced because we're going to have one every month. And we'll always have a virtual component as well, but we would love to see you in person. And then join that parent focus group around the behavior matrix on September 30th. I do want to preface that by saying the uniform is not a part of the behavior matrix. So if you have any questions about that, you can reach out directly to Ms. Dixon. But this is around that behavior matrix that we discussed. So that focus group will be here at the district office on September 30th. And you will see my face again because I'll be leading those. So if you have any questions, feel free to come off mute or drop them in the chat. But in order to honor time, we really just want you guys to be able to scan, and we have the feedback link in the chat. If you can't scan the QR code, and all of the information that you need to complete the feedback form is on this slide: the date, the presenters, the name, and the school corporation. We really want your feedback so that we know what parents need and want moving forward here at the district. So feel free to complete that. It should take 60 to 90 seconds. And if you have any questions, we can take those at this time.
So once you click into that link, of course, today's date is the 9th. Under presenter name, you can put Adams, Dixon, O'Brien. For the activity, you can put Parent Power Hour. The school corporation, of course, is Gary. And then you'll just answer questions 3 through 14 and push submit. If you're doing it from a cell phone and it's acting a little wonky, because we had a couple parents have that issue, just turn your camera horizontally and scroll up, and then you'll see the submit button at the bottom if it's not showing. And it may come up that button that said to click, I am not a robot. But other than that, that is it for today's Parent Power Hour. Woo! And as we mentioned, we'll be on here for a couple more minutes if anyone needs to stay on to ask any questions. Otherwise, thank you again for joining
Hold on,
us.
Crystal. Before you guys dismiss, I just put the deck in the chat. So I wanted you to hear that before you hop off so that you can click that before you leave. The actual presentation is in the chat. I just dropped that. So you'll have access to everything that's in the presentation that we did today, in case you want to share it. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Burton.
Hey.
Hold on, stop recording.
The uniform change?
Yes.